I've got things in my ears.
Well, welcome back to the Demonland podcast. This is a special edition of the Demonland podcast tonight. This is a special pre-trade week podcast, and joining me tonight, Grapevine. Good evening.
Good evening, Andy, and good evening, Demonland.
Yes, and also joining us today, back by popular demand again, Nasher. Good evening.
Thank you. I figured out how to get Skype going again. It's obviously been about 4 weeks too many for me, but yeah, we got there at the end.
Yeah, it took me a while. I haven't sat at this setup for a number of weeks, I think, since the last time we did a podcast. So I haven't changed any settings, so I was just hoping everything would work, and it did. So yes, we're back. I didn't think I would be back for a while. It took me a while to get my football mojo back. How about you guys, Nasher? Are you back to normal, or are you still in slitting wrist mode?
Look, I'm still disappointed with the way the season ended, but I think I'm ready for a big pre-season of training the house down now, and ready to face up for another serve of punishment next year.
And how about you, Grapevine? Have you recovered? Were you able to take an end-of-season trip without any a guilt-free end-of-season trip?
Well, no, because if you read Demonland, the club is basically in crisis. You wouldn't know that one of the most promising young champions or promising young players, maybe let's not call him a champion yet, has just nominated the club as his destination club today. If you read the boards, you'd think we're in meltdown and heading south. So a bit of a discord between what's really going on and the way things are being portrayed on Demonland, I reckon.
Well, I think that has partly to do, one side of the equation is Jake Lever, who was announced today that Melbourne is his destination club. He wants to get to Melbourne. So obviously that's a great thing for us. We've wanted to be relevant for a long time now, and last year we had Simon Godfrey. I don't know where that name popped into my head. How random is that? With Jordan Lewis coming to my head is stuck in the blast in the past from the past things that we've been doing on Demonland. But Jordan Lewis coming to the club, and and then there's the other side of the coin. With Jack Watts. Seems to be on the outs with coach and, who, if you read Demonland, he's out in the outs with everyone from the boot stutter to, So, yeah, let's start with Jake Lever. Nasher, your thoughts on that?
Oh, how exciting. I think it's knowing that such a talent wants to come to our club, I think is the most exciting thing for us. Gone are the days where the only players that want to play for us are sort of, washed up players who can't get a game at their existing club. I'm stoked. Can't wait.
Yeah, and they're not necessarily separate issues, the Watts and the Lever move, sort of positioning. Even though they're being done independently, you've got one guy coming in who's basically a future captain, and by all reports from people in the know, his standards, Jake Lever, his standards, his preparation and his attitude apparently are in the Jack Viney mould. And then you've got a guy with a question mark. On the other hand, you've got a guy with a question mark over his name as to whether he'll be at the club next year, whose standards have been brought into question. So it's all part of a pattern, I think, that we're seeing from the club in terms of where they want to go.
And what type of people they want at the club. Well, let's talk about the elephant in the room, Jack Watts, and I mean, ever since the guy came to this club, I've been a big defender of him, not necessarily on the boards, but definitely to all my friends who have, who have said, the guy's no good, he's never going to be a player. And I've always said, just wait, he's going to get there. And every year I've sort of been waiting for it, and we've seen glimpses. We know what he can do. There's no doubt the guy is talented and can play football. But do we see enough of it? Nasher, your thoughts on Jack Watts? Are you as frustrated as I am with him?
Particularly this year. It really seemed like last year that he may have seemed to have finally pulled the finger out, and to just be back in this place again. It's how long can you wait? Honestly, I am frustrated, and I say that as a person who has actually defended him actively over time as well. But I think, it's just so frustrating that we're still in this place. I was a little bit surprised when I heard that his name had been put up and so forth, but I'm at the point where if they say that the only thing that can be done is to trade him out and try and improve our side that way, then if they say so, because I'm pretty over this, having this discussion every year, to be honest.
Great, Barney.
Couldn't agree more. I think we all thought, or at least hoped, that last year was the turning point. As Nasher said, that he'd pull his finger out and progress it from there. But to then start the season as he did, and then finish the way that he did, is extremely disappointing. And I can imagine them getting to just breaking point effectively and saying, well, enough's enough. It's funny, I also haven't been a critic of his too much online, perhaps a little more recently than in the past, but I remember at the Best and Fairest last year when he finished fourth. He had a great year, and when he gave his speech upon accepting the award, to me he sounded extremely self-satisfied, and I think that that he came back to sort of pre-season just thinking he can cruise through life really, and you just can't do it these days.
No, you can't. I think I'll just. It's a bit remiss of me not to mention our phone numbers. You can join the conversation tonight and let us know your thoughts on anything that's got to do with the trade week coming up. So two ways you can get to us. You can give us a call on your mobile or landline, 03 9016 3666. That's 03 9016 3666. Or you can Skype Demonland 31. I'll pick it up, but if we're talking, we might not get to you straight away, so just stay quiet, turn down your player so that you can hear us. 03 9016 3666 or Skype Demonland 31. We've also got a chat room. You can join us if you're listening to this live, demonland.com/podcast. Anywhere on the Demonland website, you can find the podcast link at the top of the page. So, Jack Watts. Look, I've been... Every time I post something on Facebook to sort of the non-Demonland crowd, because the majority of people on there, sort of aren't, readers of the website. I'm trying to get, convert some people over to it. But every time you sort of mention Jack Watts and the word trade in the same sentence, people lose their absolute mind. There's a lot of people who are, just trade him, but there's a lot of people that were sort of blindsided by all of this, sort of not sort of realising that he was on his last legs at the club if the getting dropped towards the end of the season wasn't a hint that things might not be right. Yeah, people will lose their mind, or are losing their mind, the fact that he's up for trade, and
well, he's come out today and he seems to be saying that he wants to stay. Is there any way possible he's still going to play for Melbourne next year, do you reckon? Or is it are we too far gone now?
It's pretty unusual, I would have thought, for a player who's been told
to look for elsewhere.
Not necessarily directly to find somewhere else to play next year, to go, no thanks, I'll stay here. I would have thought most players would go, well, if they don't want me, then I suppose I'd better go, because, the senior coach, if the senior coach says, I can't support you,
limited opportunities.
It'd be weird if he stayed, to be honest. Now, I don't know how you could function in that sort of environment.
It's going to come down to are other clubs going to want him, and whether they can. I mean, are we just going to get rid of him for, the bargain basement if it comes down to that, or will we keep him on the list? We're obviously not going to let him go for pick 90.
I think the reason this is so much of a discussion is because other clubs and the supporters realise that he is worth something. Like, he's not. We're not talking about our 35th best player here. We're talking about a player who should be in our top 5 players.
Yeah.
I've got no doubt that there'll be other clubs out there that think that they can make him into a player, and perhaps he will anyway, just by virtue of of the sting in the face from being shunned by the club that he loves being at. So I reckon there'll be clubs out there that'll pay. I don't think he'll be I think we will get a reasonable return for Jack, but I would have preferred that he'd just be the player that he could be at our club. It's just a shame.
Well, what is a reasonable return? What are we looking at here? Second round draft pick, a player.
Yeah, I would have thought so. Yeah, the second rounder would be probably about right, I reckon.
Yep.
Yeah, it sounds like, from what I've read online, maybe Sydney's the go. So I don't know. I look, if he does leave, I wish him all the best, and I'm going to try not to be have the attitude of, he's going to go somewhere else and he's going to turn into a star. I don't know if it didn't work with us.
I don't think it's so much as turning into a star. We know his skills.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of whether he, ups his sort of application intensity, and in some teams it would be necessary to up his attack on the footy as well.
Now, you alluded to, things, the perception that we're in crisis at the moment because Jack Watts is leaving. But I don't think it's just that perception is there because of the Jack Watts thing. I think because of the whispers as well of Jesse Hogan, and I don't know where these rumours are coming from. I don't know if they're, Fremantle wishful thinking from them throwing things out there and hoping things will stick. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Is there a chance Jesse is leaving?
It's just that one's just bored people in WA, isn't it? This comes up all the time. It's got to be BS. I've got to say, I don't believe a word of that.
I don't really believe a word of it either. And if you look at the evidence, right, he had 3 separate opportunities to go home for an extended period this year: the death of his dad, the cancer scare, and then the collarbone. And on each occasion, he was back playing like in superhuman record time. The first thing he's done when the season's ended is go to Bali with his teammates. So this notion that he's sort of homesick doesn't really wash with me. And beyond that, he's got mates at the club. He seems to love playing for the club, and the club's going places. So he's just signed a new contract. So all the evidence would suggest that there's nothing going on here.
Because I can see why people would sort of lose their shit. You have Jack Watts leaving, Jesse Hogan possibly. Well, we don't think he's going, but you lose two quality players, and all of a sudden, the sky is falling. But I don't think Jesse's going anywhere, and I certainly hope not, because he's a part of this thing that we're building here, and without the two of them, our forward line is looking very very thin indeed.
It's going to keep coming up for the rest of his time at Melbourne, as it does with interstate players. But I think
it's just
the fragility of his situation this year adds to it as well.
It's just Freo giving it back for Pav. Every time Matthew Pavlich came out of contract, he was apparently back to Adelaide, and he never went. So, I think it's just, I don't know. I don't know too many people from WA, but there seemed to be a lot of talk seems to come from over there.
Well, if he did go, we'd need to be adequately compensated, and well, I think it's pointless to sort of talk about that now, because it's most likely not happening. But what looks like to be happening is we've got a deal with Adelaide now for Jake Lever. So what gets Jake Lever to Melbourne? Grapevine, you want to take that one? What are we going to have to give up?
I think most people are hopeful of probably of 10 and 27, the first and the second.
Yep.
Adelaide are supposedly demanding 2 firsts.
So number 10 and
we're obviously in the we're in the box seat here. So I think it'll end up being a first and a second.
Apparently, he'd said in his interview with BT that he would go to the draft if the deal didn't get done. So I think that definitely works in our favour.
Well, what happens in that? What happens in that situation? Is that a Luke Ball situation, which happened a few years ago, where there was no deal made?
He's not really going to go to the draft. It's just a bluff, but at least it sets the tone.
I mean, he's coming to Melbourne. It's done, basically.
Yeah, it's just details.
It's just a matter of how it ends up happening.
He'll look good in a Demons jumper. Obviously we all watched the grand final, and maybe we'll talk a bit about Richmond in a sec. But I watched the grand final, and in particular, I had a keen eye on Jake Lever for the game, and geez, he can play football.
I've actually got to confess, I did not watch the grand final. I know I got rudely invited to a wedding.
Oh, that's right.
Of a non AFL supporting mate. Game started the wedding started at 3:00. Didn't see a single minute of the game, but yes, I trust it was good, fellas.
Well, it gives us hope. I mean, I'm bloody jealous of those Tigers supporters. And last 2 years, I've been very jealous of the grand final winners, because they've seemingly come from nowhere, and that's and have broken droughts, and that's exactly what we've been dreaming about. So it sort of gives me hope, but it made me bloody jealous.
Well, the good thing is that both of those premierships have been won by sides really strong in the contest, and that's the Goodwin game plan, obviously. So, we saw a few times during the year, including against us, that Adelaide crumbled when the pressure was on, and it happened on grand final day. So, contest is king in the finals. We saw that absolutely.
Just on the
sure.
to go back to the to the Lever trade just for a second. Sure. Poster named Crystal Dees put up a post earlier, which I didn't think got as much attention as I thought it deserved. Suggested that because Richmond currently have picks 15 and 17, so this post suggested that we trade pick 10 and pick 27 and downgrade our third round pick and receive Richmond's pick 15 and pick 17, which could then go to Adelaide for Lever. I thought that's the kind of that's the kind of if Adelaide really don't back down on the 2 first rounders, that's the kind of thing that will need to get done, I would have thought. And clever, because I didn't even realise at that stage that Richmond had those 2 first rounders, but perhaps that's the sort of thing that could get it done.
2 late first rounders, yeah.
Yeah, 2 late first rounders. So you'd probably feel a little bit jilted if you were Adelaide, but technically it's 2 first rounders, so take it, fellas. That's what you said.
Are we? If we do have to give up, if it comes down to us having to give up next year's first rounder, which I hope it doesn't come to, is that the end of the world for us? Are we really, cutting our nose off to spite? I don't even know if that's the right analogy, but what is that going to harm us? Not having, young talent coming into the club, or are we happy to go with the talent we've got at the moment?
No, you want to get it for as low a price as possible, but obviously, it's hard to put a value on someone like Lever. He's 21, he's already got runs on the board, and he's got the whole world in front of him. So for what you're getting, you'd almost sort of pay anything, but as we said, we're sort of in pole position here, so I wouldn't have thought it's going to come to that.
Were either of you worried about the whispers from that Collingwood might come in and swoop us on the deal, considering they've got pick 6, I think? I guess now that Jake Lever said he wants to come to us. But the other day I was worried.
A bit redundant.
Yeah, I was a bit worried when that sort of happened. But 0390163666, if you want to weigh in on anything pre-trade week, give us a call or Skype us at Demonland 31. Is there anyone else that's in our sights? Like, legitimately, I know we all want, Sloan or Gaff, but is there anyone else there?
There's been the Gaff thread was bumped today, and there was a bit of gaffing about on that board. So still a possibility, I think. I think that might have come from WA Radio again. So,
and mentioning us in particular, or just mentioning
yes. I think it might have said someone else is in the box seat, but that Hawthorn and Melbourne were also interested.
Well, it seems that St Kilda, because they've got a bit of a war chest.
Was in the was sort of the first name club, and then Hawthorn and Melbourne were also mentioned. So, and a poster called Roosted, who seems to have had some intel on Lever along the way, suggested that we're in the market for someone for another midfielder. So I don't know. Watch this space.
So St Kilda's obviously in the box seat to get any of the gun midfielders that become available. But is there any strength to this Sloan rumour that Sloan might be available? And I'm not saying for us, but
no, I think he's becomes a free agent at the end of next year.
Yeah, but there's been those word that he wants out now. So
I don't know
if that was sort of there's a few pages on Facebook that sort of deal in draft things, and some of them have been have been on the money before, but with any rumours, there's a lot of wild things thrown out there. But Sloan was one of them, and if he is available, I'd love St Kilda to go for him, and then we could maybe get Gaff that way.
It's interesting because Cameron's also on the way out from Adelaide, isn't he? Yeah. Going up to Brisbane, I think. So it's interesting to have a side that's played off in a grand final. Then you've got three key players all wanting out at the same time.
It'd be pretty upsetting, wouldn't it? It would. As an Adelaide fan, you really feel like they were very close this year, and probably could arguably say, or could say that they had, a golden opportunity to win a flag, and then get set back next year by the virtue of 3 of their more important players leaving. It'd be gutting.
Yep.
It's bit of karma to them. I couldn't help, delighting a little bit in what happened to them. I was gunning for them to go out in straight sets, particularly given the final round and what happened there. Even though I've said we should have won and got in ourselves, but I feel that we were hard done by them. So I'm quite happy that they didn't win. Having said that, I really didn't want Richmond to win either. But it's the side benefit to that was Adelaide didn't win, and a bit of karma coming their way. So if they lose a few players, then so be it. Welcome to the football club, Jay Cleaver.
Can we just raise the issue that dare not be spoken of at the moment? It has been raised on the board, and maybe people could read in on this because it's dividing Demonlanders, and that is the proposition that Gary Lyon must go. Who agrees? Who disagrees? This is the question that's going to define the club's future for the next 10 years.
So I'm
glad it's finally been raised on the board.
I wasn't sure what was actually being asked in that thread.
Well, it reminded me a little bit of a tweet that Pauline Hanson made probably about a year ago, which was a demand that no more Sharia law. It's hard to demand something that isn't happening.
Exist, yeah. But
perhaps we can find a job for Gary at the club. And then swiftly remove him from it.
Then sack him. Yeah, that sounds like a plan to me. Gary must go. I don't know where he's got to go or where he's been or where he is, but yeah, must go.
But you know what?
They should have done this years ago when he first left the club.
I didn't sort of get the hate for Gary. There seems to be a bit of.
There is.
About, and I don't really get it. Like, is it because of his involvement when they went and got kneeled?
Yes.
Is it because people don't like what happened with the Bill Brownless and all that? Which, frankly, none of our business. But I don't know what is it. Look, I see with the kneeled thing. Maybe he was. Look, it's 2020 hindsight. The guy didn't work out for us, but is that Gary's fault? He was just trying to help the club when we were, sort of in dire straits.
Look, I think it's all of that, and just the fact that he just these days seems to come across as a bit of a tool. Like, I don't know, he didn't used to have that vibe about him, but these days I just find him hard to listen to. But, I don't... As far as the Neil thing goes, he wasn't the only one involved with that. Nobody seems to want to pot Jim. And he was up to his neck in the Neil thing as well. But, bygones can be bygones. Gary Lyon played a lot of good football for Melbourne as well. And is one of the sort of players I grew up watching. So I'm not going to hold one thing against him, but I do kind of wish he'd just be quiet a little bit sometimes.
It's hard to be quiet when you've got a media gig, I suppose. So
that's true.
That's true. Don't particularly enjoy listening to him too much these days. Although I think he's not a bad host of Footy Classified. But I'm a bit like you, Nash. I certainly he and Jimmy and all the others involved at the time of Neil and the ending of Bailey and Schwab. None of them had ill intentions in what they were doing. Yes, it was an absolute train wreck, but we only know that now. And as you say, Gary Lyon was a champion player for a long time and gave us all a lot of pleasure.
Yeah, he certainly did. Back sort of on to trade week. Do we have, besides pick one we've got, do we have the currency to be able to land someone else? Like someone of a decent calibre?
One thing our current footy administration have done is pull rabbits out of hats.
Yeah.
We've seen that the last couple of years. And Hawthorn, the other thing that makes me think we could is that Hawthorn managed to snag O'Meara and Tom Mitchell in one go. Now, it cost them, but I think, it can be done. If there's players knocking on the door, really good players who are going to make us a better side right now, I think I've got trust in the guys that are in charge at the moment to get it done. I don't know how. It'll be something creative that I hadn't thought of, but I reckon it'll work.
Yeah, I think we've got to put our trust in the footy guys. They know what they're doing.
The fact that you've got a guy like Lever saying, I want to come and play at Melbourne means anything is possible. And, they've managed to do some good work in the past couple of years. So, trust in them to get it done again, should an opportunity present.
Yeah, we managed to secure Simon Godfrey last year. So he was a good footballer, Simon Godfrey. I liked him. Not flashy, but
he always had a crack. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's a place for that type of footballer anymore. Is there? He could run all day, and he was a hard tag. But was there a worse user of the ball ever to play for this side?
Yeah. I think I remember though he did kick a beautiful goal from outside 50 on the run once. Wasn't expecting it, but yeah.
Well, we also weren't expecting Tom McDonald to play as a forward, and I'd say that particularly if Watts is gone, that's what's going to happen next year. And you and I, in particular, Andy, we devoted quite a few weeks here on the show to that exact issue. But we were shown up in the end.
Yeah, look,
Tom McDonald.
I used to watch him sort of his style running into goal, and I was always thinking, there's no way he's going to kick this, and every kick was straight as an arrow. So I don't know, he proved us wrong. But it looks like if Lever does come in, he'll probably be destined for the forward line.
You'd think you'd have to now. For a start, I can't see. We signed Sam Frost again when everybody thought that he might be gone. With Oscar and Lever and Hibbert and all that back there, I can't. And plus, the whole created by Watts potentially going. Tommy Mack as the forward, I would have thought. Yeah, plugger McDonald.
Just on Frost, if we do get Lever, I'd like to see Frost maybe go on to the wing, or half back, more of a sort of, rather than take a man. Use his run a little bit more.
Has to be behind the ball, doesn't he? I think he's. On the wing is as likely to be as an idea as doomed as playing him in the forward line turned out to be. Yeah, that's what I reckon.
All right, strike that.
I think he's showed plenty of promise as a defender. I love the attack and the run. But he just needs to learn to defend better, and I reckon he'll come good, Frosty. It also didn't end the season very well after a pretty good first half of the year.
Well, that's why I thought he was destined to go or be used as part of some type of trade, particularly the way he ended the season in the Rezzies. So, he was given a contract. We had a couple of delistings. Are you surprised by any of them?
Nope.
No.
Nope.
And Ben Kennedy was yesterday. I don't think I was surprised with that one.
I was a little bit surprised to see people on the forum mentioning that they were delighted that he was delisted. I thought that was a bit harsh.
Yeah.
Wow. But
we see that every year, don't we?
Yeah, I know, and I reckon I think that's just unnecessary. That kind of, I get that people are emotional and passionate about the footy, but at the end of the day, to me, a guy has just had his career snuffed out. And we all knew that was going to happen, and he knew it was going to happen, and it's no surprise to anyone. But I still don't think there's a need to, as I said on the forum, dance on people's graves once they've gone.
No, definitely not. Is there anything else we can expect from Trade Week? Any surprises?
Pretty much every trade week in the last few years has thrown up surprises. So I'm expecting surprises, but since they're going to be surprises, I can't tell you what they are.
Yeah. Look, I wasn't expecting Jordan Lewis last year. There was a lot of talk as well towards the end of trade week last year about Tom Rockcliffe, and his name's out there again, but I haven't seen one report of us being in the mix for that one. Do you think?
It's interesting. Yeah. Stringer's obviously the other big name that's out there, and we haven't been connected to Stringer in any way. And you'd think with Brendan McCartney at the club, we'd have a very clear position on Stringer. So I think it's pretty clear it's a no from us. And there seems to be a lot of reluctance across the board. I think there was a report in the Herald Sun today that basically said that he was struggling to cope with the uncertainty surrounding his future. So I don't know whether that's such a great idea from the manager to put that out there. The fact that he's just struggling just with the uncertainty doesn't fill you with confidence for him tackling future challenges, I would have thought.
There's a chance, surely, that he won't play next year, I would have thought, with all this. Like, you'd be taking a huge risk picking him up as a club, I would have thought.
Yeah, it's look, he's been dumped by his club. There's lots of reports and rumours circulating about him. I can't see. Well, I can see why we're not willing to touch him.
There's talk that if he goes anywhere, it's likely to be Essendon. But, yeah.
That seems to figure, doesn't it, in some sort of way?
But isn't it amazing that someone that talented, there's such a question mark over whether to take him or not? It was only 2 years ago that on the couch they'd start off every show with their guest asking who would you prefer, who would you take to base your team around, Jesse Hogan or Jake Stringer. So it's a long fall, isn't it? And it happens quickly.
Oh, absolutely. I was just having a look at the threads that are on the board, and one that caught my eye, and I don't think we can have a show go by without mentioning it, is Jack Trengove winning the Casey Best and Fairest, and I thought, with him leaving, being delisted this year, I thought it was a good send-off that to win that award, and it's a little bit sad in the end because I would have liked him to finish his career obviously playing for the Dees, but hats off to him. And do you think there's any chance he'll get picked up by somebody?
I'd be very surprised. But it's a credit to him, isn't it, that he took out the medal because he had his opportunity this year. It came and went, but he still kept cracking in the twos, even when he probably knew in his heart of hearts that it was coming to an end. There wouldn't be a Melbourne person that isn't disappointed for Jack that it turned out that way.
Agree, and I really admire him for pressing on. It would be dispiriting to know that you were at one point looking like a really good AFL player, and that it all went so wrong, and you couldn't do it anymore. It would be, especially as he's only a young man. He's only 25 or so. It would have been hard, and I've got a lot of respect for him, and I wish him all the best.
And the other thing is that there's been good tributes to him on Demonland, and we all got the chance to applaud him several times when he, when he did get a run in the seniors this year. But people forget that he re-signed with the club a few weeks after 186. So basically, we were at our lowest ebb at that point. Bailey just gone, Schwab lucky to hang on, and huge questions in the media every day about Scully, and Tringo re-signed with the club in that environment, a contract extension. So I'll never forget that. It just came at such an important time in terms of the morale of the club and the public perception of where we were at.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Top bloke, and just want to thank him for his service to the club. Seems like a fantastic bloke, and but it's just a shame of what could have been. So, on that note, anything else? Anything else you guys want to bring up at this time of the year?
Not I.
My big off-season wish is for a neat and tidy board. Draft threads on the draft page, general threads on the general page. It's getting very messy. People are very excitable. So just keep it clean, folks, and avoid the confusion.
Instant ban for anybody who opens a new thread that could have been added to existing threads.
This is
Yes.
this is
Yes.
not new and not isolated to our board. I'm sure all forums across have the problem of people not searching for topics before they post, but that's why we have moderators, and that's why I pay you. I don't pay you, but
we need to change the culture at the board, set new standards. So, severe new restrictions over the summer.
We'll get right on that. But yeah, it's
we've only been trying that for about 12 years now. We'll get there eventually.
Well, we started.
Now, what about this thread having a go at one of our guests this year, Troy Chaplin, wearing a Tiger scarf on grand final day and enjoying the Tigers win?
Oh, how
do we
could
make
he?
of that?
What? Gee, golly, wow. Another storm in a teacup. Apparently, Alistair Clarkson was also spotted in the Tigers room. Good mate of Dimmer. So,
could you imagine if
people want to get amongst
Uze, Brad Green, these guys have all coached at other clubs. Can you imagine them not wearing a red and blue scarf if we ever got to the big dance? So,
so you're going the reverse. You're doing
reverse psychology.
The reversal there. Yes, I see what you're doing there. I wouldn't mind them wearing that. I didn't know. I wasn't aware of the Chaplin thing, and when you said it, I was sort of having a think whether that's acceptable or not. And I was thinking, well, what about Goodwin? Would you accept if Goodwin put on an Adelaide scarf on the weekend?
Bernie probably had one on. And I wouldn't be surprised if Goodwin's celebrated with some of his Adelaide mates, but no, I don't really have a problem with it. No,
I think you gotta be a little bit realistic, like especially if it was Goodwin. He's a I'm not sure, he wasn't captain when they won the flag, but he's a premiership player. He's a past captain.
Yeah.
He's one of their club greats. Like, he's really, of course, he's still going to have his heart at the Adelaide Crows at some level. I mean, that doesn't mean, it doesn't mean that he's not fully committed to us as well. It's not. I don't think being fully committed to your job and still having a soft spot for another club are mutually exclusive. I think you can do both, and I think that's fine. If those guys, want to enjoy the success of other clubs as well as working towards our own, Okay, fine.
Especially in the way that the footy industry is, where everyone's, people have worked in numerous clubs over the years, and the players grow up playing together, in representative footy and stuff. So the relationships that happen across clubs are everywhere. Yeah. Anyway, this same poster was also upset that apparently there's someone who works in the demon shop that barracks for Richmond. So that's also
I guarantee
huge issue.
I guarantee you, if you asked everyone who works in the front office at the Dees who they grew up supporting or who they even barrack for now, there'd be a lot of other clubs mentioned. Just because you work for the Demons doesn't mean you have to.
No, but the problem is, I went in to buy a Jack Viney badge, and I walked out with a Trent Cotchin.
Yeah. Well, when that happens, if that happens, then yes, sack her. But she is allowed to support another club. I don't think you have to renounce your allegiances when you come work for the club. All right. So if there's nothing else, gentlemen, and if no one else wants to call in and join us, we do have quite a number of listeners. But if that's all there is tonight, then we can end it here. So, what do you think?
Yep, and come back probably in draft week.
Yeah, so I was going to suggest, maybe we come back. We'll play it by ear. If some good things happen early on, maybe we'll do it. Because it's 2 weeks trade week, is that correct? Or 10 days?
I got no idea. I know all the dates.
Yeah, it has been in the last couple of years. I'm not on top of it, to be honest, but that's what it's been the last couple of years.
All right, we'll play it by ear, and if not, we'll come back after trade week and give a full wrap up and welcome some new players, hopefully, to the club, and and then
maybe we can do a draft night live show.
Well, we can do that too. That's an interesting one. Yeah, why not? I've got it.
Maybe I should have waited till we finished the show before I put that on board.
No, I'm liking that idea. I didn't think of that. And no, I think we'll get Whispering Jack involved in that one because he knows all those young players, so he'll be able to add some insight to any of the guys we pick up.
And it'd be good to have calls from posters like Chaser J, Pennant and D over in Western Australia, because those guys also keep a keen eye on some of the talent that's elsewhere. So it'd be good to have not just WJ, but some other Demonlanders involved too.
What are your thoughts? We might as well talk about, because this is pre-draft, pre-trade stuff. What are your thoughts on drafting interstate players? Are you a bit hesitant to do that, given that the thing with Jesse Hogan now, every year we're going to have Fremantle chiming in and posting rumours that he's coming back, or even just the player being homesick. Jake Lever, I don't know whether he's homesick or just wants to be closer to family, or what the situation is there, but does that sort of sour you on getting interstate talent at all?
Not me. I think the vast majority of them stay. That's for the one or two who come up every year, there's dozens of Western Australians playing in Victoria and Victorians playing in WA or South Australia or they're all like, the talent goes all over the place. Yeah. I think we shouldn't be afraid of one or two high profile players, occasionally defecting. The other thing is, if we ended up picking up a really, really good, a star South Australian or Western Australian or whatever, and we got 5 good years out of them before they buggered off and we won a flag, would it actually really be that much of a disaster? I still think you take the really good player and get the short amount of time out of them, given the choice.
If it nets us a flag, the whole team
can
leave. I won't be greedy. I don't need to see 3 in a row. I just want to see one at the moment.
You can't, you can't take those things into account. No one could have predicted what would have happened to Jesse this year. If you were writing the worst script possible for his 2017, you wouldn't have dreamed up the scenario he faced this year. So you've got to go for the players that you need, and if they happen to be interstaters, then so be it.
It'd be nice to see. Well, someone's probably got stats on the return. The return rate of whether it's Western Australians coming to Victoria or Victorians going to Western Australia, South Australia. What the rate of return sort of is, and who, because it's obviously a risk for the interstate clubs to bring over Victorians as well. But they've sort of got less of a choice than we do. They can't sort of draft a team of just Western Australians or South Australians. So, yeah.
Well, they could, but it's probably not the best way to build the list.
No, it wouldn't. All right, gentlemen. It's been lovely reconnecting with you all, and it's good to see that you're all still with us. You haven't you didn't take the loss too hard. Let me ask you, how long did it take you to get over it? It took me a couple of weeks to get my mojo back. Took me a while to sort of look at anything footy, particularly watching stuff on TV. The early finals weeks were hard for me. What about you guys, Grapevine?
Yep, I'm the same. Probably a couple of weeks where I was really filthy, and any mention of footy or Melbourne had me feeling pretty low.
How did you guys think we would have done? Well, let's see. Playing Sydney, had we beaten Collingwood, what do you reckon our chances, having seen what Sydney did to Essendon? How do you think we would have? I mean, it's 20/20 hindsight, and who knows what would have happened, but do you reckon we were a chance there?
Nah, we wouldn't have beaten them, and that was a tongue-in-cheek comment I made on the forum at the time. Like, damn, this was supposed to be us getting belted by Sydney. No. I don't think, with the way that we
ended the season,
we're running out of steam a little bit, and they were flying at that stage. We wouldn't have beaten them. And
had we limped into the finals by Adelaide doing us a little bit of a favour, how do you think we would have gone in that game against Port? I didn't actually watch that game. I couldn't bring myself to do it. I was still filthy at that time, but I just didn't want to see West Coast. But yeah,
could easily have beaten Port. Port are beatable.
Yep, exactly. If we'd been up against Port, that would have been a different story.
The next week was GWS. That would have been a bit more of a challenge, I think, considering how our game went against them earlier in the year. I don't know. I mean, it's pretty hard. It's pretty hard to say now. Put it this way: I don't think we would have won the flag had we limped over the line. Yeah. Well, it just, next year, I don't know what needs to sort of change so that doesn't happen again, because it sort of happened, and I don't know whether it was the injuries that contributed to it, but it also happened the year in Roosters last year, where the last 2 games we sort of just fizzled out. So I don't know. I don't know what needs to improve in the off-season so that doesn't happen. And let's hope we have an injury-free year. Look at what Richmond...
Be good if we could get in a young gun defender who's potential captaincy material. Not that anyone's going to knock Jack Viney off the perch, but that's a start.
It is. It certainly is. All right. Well, thank you for. It would have been nice to get some calls in, but what can you do? But thank you, guys, for joining. Grapevine, thank you. Nasher, thank you. We'll be back in a couple of weeks to discuss the wash-up of Trade Week, and hopefully we add a few more soldiers to our war chest.
Thank you.
All right, guys. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Go Dees.